Connor is actually alive and thriving among the living.
Yes.
He's nominated for an Emmy today. That's why he's not here.
To be clear, not for his work on this show.
That's correct.
Yeah, to be clear.
That's coming, though.
Right, yeah, sure it is.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Halloween, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside, I think, Matthew Berry and Jay Croucher. There's a lot to unpack here at the start of today's show.
Hey, it's me, I'm Luigi.
Man, we're in for a long one.
I'm a Luigi.
Get used to this.
I'm a company of man.
Yes.
The Super Mario Brothers, a big hit for Universal.
A fantasy life, huh?
Yeah,
for sure.
That's
Absolutely.
me. It's me,
man.
F Mario.
Yeah.
Yes. All about the Luigi. Yes. Hello.
And what are we doing today?
Huh?
What are we doing today?
Oh, we are doing
A waiver wire.
The
Yeah.
waiver wire.
Yeah, there we go.
We are going to the wire. We're cooking up some waivers, and we got a spooky game from last night. Ooh, it's so scary.
It's going to be tough talking about Jahan Dotson.
I'm back from the Emmys. I really picked the wrong show to miss, clearly.
Yes. So, Connor, you didn't win the Emmy.
That's not Miami. Let's just make this
Who won the Emmy?
Todd Zeal, from my colleague at SMY. Todd Zeal from Mets Postgame does an incredible job on Mets Postgame. He beat a loaded field. I mean, a loaded field in terms of analysts. And because of that, I believe you are Todd Zeal from SMY for Halloween.
That's correct. I'm the man who beat you.
You get the Emmy, not me.
That I won. So
Yes.
if anyone needs any questions answered on the show by an Emmy winner, please.
Hey, you know what? F for you, Todd Zeal. F for you.
Yeah.
F for you. You should have won of this.
Yeah,
you should have won of this.
God. Yeah, maybe next year.
Read between the lines, Todd Zeal.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll give you guys, I don't know, maybe a steak dinner if you can guess who I am. I'm not a generic coach, by the way.
No.
I'm a very important coach in Jets history.
In Jets history, yeah.
I didn't see the mic on the side. I thought you were...
I got the headset on.
You got the,
Come on, Luigi, spit it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
The man genius?
Man, I wish I could pull off the
man genius, my God.
This is Rich Kotite.
Rich Kotite.
Rich Kotite won one
Richie
game
Kotite.
in his final year with the Jets. He also notoriously drafted Kyle Brady over Warren Sapp while all of Radio City was chanting, "We want Sapp." So to honor the worst
did
coach.
not work out.
Yes, it did not work out. The worst coach in Jets history, I am Rich Kotite, because that is the scariest thing a Jets fan could see on Halloween.
Oh.
That's right.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm going to need a
bad.
screen grab of this at some
Yeah,
point.
not
This
bad.
is not Miami. Let's make clear of this.
Yeah.
Unreal.
We need some water on you to make it look more real.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, we do have.
This is a real Emmy, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy things.
It was heavy. I'm not sure if the sports ones felt that heavy yesterday. I wouldn't know. I didn't get to touch one.
Yeah. We should steal it from Todd Zeal.
I can.
Yeah.
It's laying around SMY somewhere. Maybe the next Jets pregame. We had a lot to do today. Waiver wired, of course. We'll do a Monday Night Football recap from the Lions offense mostly. We'll talk about the Raiders situation too, and our Back to the Futures as well. So let's jump right into waiver wired, starting with the notable wide receivers on the bye for Week 9. And this is a pretty good group here with Denver, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Detroit, Ride or Die, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, San Francisco. We know Deebo Samuel's hurt, but Brandon Ayuk a big one as well.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy always on a bye. Yeah, no difference this week. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Ayuk and the Amon-Ra, those are bigger names. Those are bigger names.
All right. So, reminder, the trade.
We're 4 minutes in and I'm already sick of this.
Yeah, Jay prefaced on the production call today that he will be very tired of this by about the 4 to 6 minute mark of it.
The under hit.
The under smashed. The under at minus 200.
Absolutely.
Taking home some prizes. So
Yeah.
the trade deadline.
That's a feature, not a bug. Understand.
The trade
You're
deadline.
getting sick of this. This is a feature, not a bug.
4 p.m. Eastern today, so keep an eye on everything from the trade deadline, and we will jump into that because, of course, we will be back tomorrow at noon Eastern. But let's start with the waiver wire ad of the week at wide receiver, and that is Commanders wide receiver Jahan Dotson. Now, a caveat here, only available in 49% of leagues. Our standard is typically, Luigi, 50%, but Jahan Dotson could be out there in your league. He's coming off a Week 8 against Philly where he caught 8 passes for over 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, a lot of time he is saying, somehow look at me, and he getting a lot of that, right? 18 targets of the past 2 games, 10 last week. Oh, he's a talented guy. This is Jahan Dotson. And what's as exciting to a Luigi? 70% of his receptions over the last 2 games have come in the slot. In the slot, you understand? And so when you think about this, a matchup with the Patriots. Oh, the New England, the Patriots, and the Bill Belichick.
You Luigi or a character on The Wire?
I don't know, just to go with it. Anyway, over the last 4 weeks, the Patriots have ranked bottom 10 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So,
well, Luigi meets Stringer Bell talking about
I'm going to kill you. How about that? How about this? Anyway, give me some of Jahan Dotson.
All right.
I think he'll have a successor against Billy Belichick.
Good things for Jahan Dotson going forward, right, Jay?
I guess so.
We could.
I think, and interested in your thoughts, Connor, about Sam Howell's performance against the Eagles, because I thought he was phenomenal until the last couple of throws that he really butchered on the 3rd and 4th down. But the big thing was he didn't take any sacks.
Yes.
And if he's not going to take any sacks, then all of a sudden this offense looks completely different.
He played faster. And that's all you could ask for from a young quarterback, right? When you look at Sam Howell, you just want him to get the ball out quicker, utilize targets that they've invested a lot of resources in, like Jahan Dotson. And the Eagles' corners have been vulnerable this year, so it's good to see him take advantage of that. And Sam Howell has played up to the competition against Philly twice now, which says a lot about his character as well.
Let's also just see who's on this Washington team, your Commanders, in 5 hours, because they've just traded Montez Sweat to the Bears. A great deal for a guy who's leaving anyway. I'm not sure why the Bears are giving up a 2nd-round pick for a guy who's going to be free.
Deal.
Could be pick
it's a
33,
great deal.
honestly.
Yeah,
That could be pick 33.
Yeah, that's a very exciting. I love the deal. Washington should be in sell mode. You understand?
Yeah, I do understand.
Yeah. Just here, what do you want? Because
you know
we
what this
got
reminds
it.
me of? So, have you ever seen the movie The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino? Because the first half of the movie,
many years ago.
Keanu does a southern accent for the first half, and it's terrible.
Bells?
And then the second half, he just bails, and he's like, "Nah, I can't do it. I'm just Keanu now." Second half of the movie, I'm Keanu.
Oh, yeah.
That may have happened today. That may have happened today.
Yeah, we'll see how far we go. So far, we're all the way through. We're going to get through
harder
segment
to
1.
do the analysis in the voice.
You got through one player. Let's see how the second one goes. Jay here.
Go to Jay.
Patriots wide receiver Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas.
To that a-hole,
Yes.
Todd Azeel.
97% available. He's got the Commanders secondary this week, and the reason Pop Douglas shows up on this because Kendrick Bourne most likely out for the season with a torn ACL.
Seems like he's done. And Pop Douglas is getting a little bit more work in any case. I mean, he had 7 targets against the Dolphins. He's trending up in that offense. They're just looking for any kind of burst that they can get. And Mac Jones he hasn't been fantastic, but he has been more usable the past 2 weeks. So I just think any wide receiver 1 in an NFL offense has to be rostered, and it looks like that's what Demario Douglas is now, Luigi.
Kendrick Bourne has been a good the last couple of weeks, and now, as you mentioned, he had not going to play this week. He gone for the year, unfortunately. Sad, Luigi. But Devontae Parker also in the concussion protocol, as you have mentioned. So yes, Demario Douglas, the number 1 wide receiver, 25% a target share last week. And you think about my Commanders, who just gave up Montez Sweat, and honestly just give up a lot of things, including yards to opposing wide receivers, right? The 2nd most per game. So yeah, I like a Demario Douglas this a week and a going future because Patriots in let's see what we got to mode.
Okay. All right. I don't know
it's
if
in and
Luigi
out.
does this.
It's an in and out. It's hard to talk for a long time, you understand that?
Yeah. All right, well, I'll help you out then. The next one here,
Okay.
Brandin Cooks. He's got the Eagles secondary that we just talked about. He's available in almost 60% of leagues. Last week against the Rams, 3 catches, 49 yards. Most importantly, that touchdown. But you have to like the matchups ahead. The Eagles, the Giants, at Carolina, and then they have the Commanders on Thanksgiving here, Luigi. So Brandin Cooks, somebody that, once again, he is available in almost 60% of leagues, and you know he's going to be involved in this Dallas passing attack.
You know what Luigi likes to do? He likes to cook. And so you got to Brandin Cooks, and it makes I can't do it anymore. All right, I'm gonna bail on this. All right, and so anyway, I'm gonna
You made it further than we thought.
I'm gonna go. Thanks. I'm gonna go.
America thanks you.
9 minutes and 30 seconds. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go full Keanu, and so I'm just going to go in and out of it.
That's the right
That's what I'm
strategy.
going to do. So I'm going to go in and out of it with no rhyme or reason throughout the entire show.
Turns out it was a
But
phenomenal 5 out of 10 movie in 1997.
Isn't and is Al Pacino in that?
Yeah, Al Pacino plays the devil.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Another amazing
I
performance.
remember hating that movie.
Started just yelling at everything.
I saw it when it was in the theaters. I remember hating
Charlize
it.
Theron?
All right, she was great in it.
It's okay.
What? It
Not the best word.
depends when you're a young man and what you're looking for out of a movie. I'll just say that. All right, here with Brandin Cooks. The positives here, he scored in 2 of the last 3 games. He leads all wide receiver in yards per target, and it does feel like this Cowboys offense is getting back on track. I mean, like, again, we got to unleash the running game here, but Dak, and I'm not the biggest Dak fan in the world, but Dak legitimately has looked really good the last couple of weeks. Feels like the passing offense is finally coming on, and the success of CeeDee Lamb opens up everything for all of these guys. So, again, he's 3rd on the list. He's available, but you like his chances against the Eagles, Giants, Panthers, Washington. Those are the next 4 for the Cowboys. It's a really nice stretch for the passing game of the Cowboys, of which Brandin Cooks is a part of.
Yep. And Connor, while you were out yesterday losing Emmys, we talked
And
about...
me. I lost once.
Okay, just one. There's more to come.
But you weren't nominated for the other awards,
Yes.
in fairness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I mean, right, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I just lost once.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, in
I'm a
theory,
loser,
like,
but only one time. Yes.
in many ways. I mean, like, there are many awards in which you did not win. And
Yeah.
what's a person who did
I
not
can't be
win an
nominated for
award?
play-by-play.
I understand, but I'm just
or
saying- I'm just saying-
pictures.
To be fair, it's not like Connor lost like Best Supporting Actor to Heath Ledger at the Oscars with the Joker. Yeah, he didn't lose that
No,
necessarily.
he lost to Todd F. and Zeal.
Yeah. It'd be phenomenal if Todd watches the show.
Yeah,
just sitting
exactly.
back, just one peacock, like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. How did I get roped into this?
When Todd goes into when Todd Zeal goes into the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, because he only played, I think, 3 years with the Mets. He played like 5 or 6 with the Cardinals.
Right.
There was a Phillies year in there was a Yankees year in
had
there.
a
He was
long career.
Long career.
Yes.
Who does he go in as? We go into and when he goes into the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, all the Emmys that he's won over you.
With the Mets and SNY.
Mets,
yeah, the Mets affiliate.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I like it.
Interesting.
So anyway,
Interesting.
what I was starting to say was that talking about Dak Prescott being a kind of sneaky MVP candidate in a weird way, just because that team is now trending up. If they beat the Eagles as 3-point dogs, all of a sudden they're right there for the 1 seed in the NFC. Dak cleaned up his stats. And another reason I like this bet on Dak, who's 50-1 to an MVP, and another reason I like Brandin Cooks, is that the Cowboys can't run the ball. I don't understand it, but they cannot run the ball. Tony Pollard cannot get anything going on the ground. So they're having to throw the ball. They need multiple receivers. And I don't understand what's happened to Michael Gallup, where he gets 10 targets one week, then he's just not a part of the offense the next. But Brandin Cooks seems like he's in position to take advantage.
Yeah, the Dallas offensive line, to answer your question, Jay, it's not been good in run blocking situations. There's just no way around it. But obviously the beneficiaries of that can be guys in their pass game.
Yeah.
So, all right, the next one here, and this one, makes me happy. Saints wide receiver Rashid Shaheed versus the Bears, 64% available. Jay texted me before the game, loving Shaheed's prop, and he smashed that. 3 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown. He's the big play threat of the Saints offense, Luigi.
Yeah, and what you're hoping for, if you say my name is Luigi.
There we go. I'll pick my spots.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you take a shot down to the field. Hey, Derek Carr, nice job. Hey, the 3 targets is the concern, right? What you're hoping for here is a little irrational coaching. Right, hey, this guy is a good. Why don't you play him a little bit more? And that's not what happened in so far. But you're hoping, he leads all the wide receivers in yards, the yards per target, right? And 2 of the last 3 games, he's gotten one of them touchdowns. So Rashid Shaheed is a guy that you're hoping for the big play.
Were people coming at you on Twitter last week because Shaheed had a bad game?
Like 2 weeks ago, the worst part is they came at Matthew. It wasn't his sleeper, and they were yelling at him.
Yeah.
I will take the fall, but I won't, because you should hold on to Shaheed because he can have a big week like this.
What I'm hoping for is that, there's always this, so they were yelling at me because Shaheed didn't come through and that it was your sleeper. I'm hoping that people yell at you for my costume and voice today. That's what I'm hoping.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah,
There's a
you and
chance.
Jay. You guys should have stopped it. You had a chance and you didn't.
Rashid Shaheed looks like the best wide receiver on the Saints right now. I don't know what's happened to Chris Olave, what's
been
going
brutal.
on there, but Shaheed, he's the guy who gives that team depth.
The concern, you're, again, sort of, voice aside, again, you're hoping for rational coaching here because you're like, this guy is clearly talented, get him more snaps. It's super weird that last week was his season low in snap rate and routes run. And so I know he plays special teams, and so again, we've talked about this. I don't know why he's not getting more run. Is it maybe there's a concern on he doesn't have a expanded route tree, and maybe they don't really feel comfortable with him doing a certain package of plays? But so, I think there's going to be some inconsistency there. But again, if this were just pure talent, he'd be higher on this list. But we feel better about the workload and volume that Dotson, Douglas, and then actually Cooks would get over Shaheed. But talent-wise, again, he's a guy that only needs one play to make your week.
Our next one here, Chargers wide receiver Quentin Johnston. He's got the Jets, who their corners could have taken a nap against the Giants. So we'll see how much the Chargers challenge them compared to Tommy DeVito.
Are you buying this with Quentin Johnston? Because I know it's one of the things we've talked about. This is a guy that was inconsistent and unpolished, but with Josh Palmer getting a little bit banged up, he had his, again, this is a bit of damning with faint praise, but he had his best game of the season for the Chargers. Again, Palmer leaves that game for a little bit. No Gerald Everett in that game. They're playing the Bears. So, but this is a guy that was a high draft pick for the Chargers, that passing offense seems like it's getting on track. So where are you on Quentin Johnston?
Pretty mixed and not still overly optimistic, because everything went right for him to get opportunity, and he had a 5 for 50 day, which is, you might need that in your flex right now. But the reality is the Jets corners is a tough matchup. The reason you buy is because it's a Justin Herbert-led offense, and he could be the number 2. You're always going to buy into that. But if I think Quentin Johnston's going to be this breakout, like we've seen with a lot of young players this year, I'm still not buying. I wouldn't go out crazy with my fab budget in this situation.
Yeah, I think probably more deeper leagues. I wanted to mention him because I've just seen him mentioned a lot in a lot of waiver wire columns and shows and that kind of stuff. And just, again, to your point about the upcoming schedule. So you've got the Jets this week, then home to Detroit. Lions are a pretty good defense. At Green Bay, that's always a tough place to play, especially that'll be in November. And then home to Baltimore. And the Ravens, right? So that's there's not one matchup there that you feel great about, especially for a guy that is at best, the best case scenario is he's the third option on offense after Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. And that's assuming Palmer is hurt again and no Gerald Everett. Right? And there's a scenario where he's the 5th or 6th guy on offense.
Yep, I agree. And another guy who is probably at best the third best option on his own offense, but it may not matter as much as Khalil Shakir of the Bills, who really broke out in a big way in that Thursday night game against the Bucs. But I think with the amount that the Bills throw the ball, the fact that they seem to make a conscious decision to switch to more 11 personnel, and the fact that Diggs garners so much attention and there is opportunity for others in that offense, I think that Shakir is a guy who could be viable the rest of the way as a flyer. We'll see what happens with Gabe Davis. His role seemed to change as well. Dalton Kincaid obviously garners targets as well. But the reason I like Shakir is that the Bills' upcoming schedule, they have to play the rest of the season. They have these games on the slate. At Cincinnati, at Philadelphia, at Kansas City, Dallas, at the Chargers, at Miami. These games are going to be shootouts, and they're going to need to be throwing the ball, and I think Shakir can benefit, Connor.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all, and I think you like this might sound crazy, but you like the PPR floor of Shakir in that offense, because when they do run out a slot, they're historically with Josh Allen, they target the slot. So I think when you look at Shakir, there is a nice floor there. It's a matter of what the ceiling can be.
And, Connor, this is something that you referenced, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, but the Bills have, whether it's because of the injury to Dawson Knox, whether it's because they're trying to get this offense going, they've been playing 11 personnel a lot more. 70% of plays in 3 straight games, they've been in 11 personnel, and so obviously that benefits Kincaid and Shakir. So obviously along with Gabe Davis, which is why I think Gabe Davis might not be a total fluke from last week as well.
Yeah, they're going to be
again if they're in 11 personnel and they're playing high tempo offense, good things are going to happen when you've got Josh Allen at quarterback. Speaking of the Bills, we'll get to Uncle Lenny in a little bit.
Our last one here, Packers wide receiver Jayden Reed against the Rams this week. He's available in 83% of leagues. Week 8 against the Vikings, 6 targets, 4 catches, 83 yards here for Jayden Reed, Jay, who seems to be around in most leagues right now and has had a rapport with Jordan Love at times this year.
He has, and we spoke on Fantasy Football pregame on Sunday about how potentially the jury was out on Jordan Love. I think the jury is very in now. He is not being good at all. We haven't seen anything from him this season really outside of the first couple of weeks. And so I think that this is a team that's kind of in a rebuilding mode at the moment. And I think that Jayden Reed, he is the guy who's going to get more run going forward. Christian Watson just hasn't happened for him this season. I don't really understand it. Romeo Doubs hasn't been the guy that he was in that stretch when Watson was out. So I think there is opportunity on this team. Also, I don't think they're very good, so I think they're going to be throwing a lot. And Jayden Reed's the guy who's shown the most promise.
Question for you. Yeah, I agreed. And by the way, very quietly double-digit fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. So, again, I don't think you really want to invest in the Packers offense at all. No. But, again, if you're this far down the list and you need a guy, he certainly qualifies. They're home to the Rams this week and then at Pittsburgh. So it's not a schedule that really it makes you that nervous. Then home to the Chargers as well. So 3 straight games against pass defenses that have struggled recently. So it's a nice schedule there for Jayden Reed. Who gets benched first for performance reasons among starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Jimmy Garoppolo, Jordan Love, or Desmond Ridder?
Ridder.
Yeah, Ridder.
I think there's a chance. Arthur Smith came out and said that, he was going to evaluate it this week.
Yeah. And it did seem like after the game they were like, it wasn't
performance related.
Yeah, it was a lot of weird.
But then he backtracked a little bit.
It.
Heineke was decent when he came in. His efficiency stats were fine. I think that Ridder just hasn't shown enough. And I think there's just too much invested financially in Jimmy, and then just from a team-wide kind of aspect with Jordan Love, the fact that they built this up as his team, I think they'll give Jordan Love the whole year to fail.
I almost think they'll give him all the next year, depending on how high they pick.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Garoppolo, I could see them because last night, we'll talk about that game coming up, but that was brutal. The argument for Heineke is that the Falcons are alive in that race. The Falcons are very much alive in the NFC South.
They're the favorites to win the division.
Yeah. So, they're
atrocious.
Exactly. It's an awful division. And, so they could just, if they think they've got a better chance to win with Heineke, which I, by the way, do. Yep. He's a little bit too much of a gunslinger, a little bit too much of a turnover machine. But on the other hand, I think he'll push the ball down the field, and I think he gives them a better chance to win. And I will tell you that just from having watched him in Washington, the Commanders played better with him despite the fact there were more physically gifted quarterbacks on the team, Carson Wentz being the most obvious. People like Taylor Heineke. He's just a guy that in the locker room, the team likes him.
There just needs to be change. It's not working. The offense isn't working, so you just have to make a change. And Heineke may be better than Ridder, so you have to have a look and see.
As long as we're on the Falcons, real quickly, I just want to take one moment to turn to the camera and say, Andy Behrens, you magnificent bastard. Andy Behrens is a longtime friend of mine, and I'm so annoyed at him because you got to go search this out on Twitter. He dressed up as Arthur Smith for Halloween, it was just a brilliant, brilliant costume, and I would have done that if Andy hadn't beat me to it. Damn you, Andy Behrens!
But thank God, instead we got the backup.
Yes, it's me and Luigi. Who cares about Arthur Smith? Yeah, F for Arthur Smith. F for Todd Zeal.
I'd do anything for the Arthur Smith costume instead. Absolutely anything.
To recap,
I should be a coach of the Falcons. Give it the rocket to a Bijan.
Yeah, exactly. It's superior. You're already a better coach.
Let's go.
To recap, Luigi's Week 9 top wide receiver waiver targets. Number 1 was Jahan Dotson, right at that 49% mark. Pop Douglas because of the Kendrick Bourne ACL. Brandin Cooks, Rashid, Shaheed, big play threat. Quentin Johnston trying to seize onto that opportunity. Khalil, Shakir involved in Buffalo's offense now, and Jayden Reed for the Packers. And with that,
Mamma mia, this is a good list.
It is. Then moving on to the running backs here. Notable running backs on the bye for Week 9. Denver's backfield of Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. Detroit, a very notable one, as David Montgomery tries to get healthy, and Jahmyr Gibbs coming off 2 huge games. Jacksonville, Travis Etienne, he's been phenomenal this year. And, of course, for San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey. So, Jay, this is just
he's the cream of the crop.
This is a Bimageddon of running backs this week almost.
Absolutely. Christian McCaffrey, obviously the number 1 running back in fantasy. Travis Etienne quietly leading the league in carries. A lot of people refer
to Christian McCaffrey as the Todd Zeal of fantasy running backs.
That's fair.
Just kind of the best of the best, as it were.
That's
the kind of guy that you get awards.
Yes.
The kind of guy that wins
Takes
awards.
home the trophy.
Takes home the trophy.
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. A quick mention off the top here. Roshan Johnson of the Bears against the Saints. He's available in 50% of leagues. So kind of a toss-up if he's out there for you, but definitely somebody to keep an eye on. And then another mention here, because we have to. It's a staple of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. If you haven't picked up Tyjae Spears by now, we don't know what else to tell you. So
what's wrong with you?
Why don't you just listen? Brings us to Tyjae Spears, who we've talked about on the show.
Other guys that we've been talking about stashing for a while, they're still out there in way too many leagues.
I don't understand this with Tyjae Spears. 76%
We're begging you. We've been begging you for weeks. Pick up Tyjae Spears. Why won't you listen to us?
We do this every week.
I was just going to say, what else can we say about Tyjae Spears? Why America's ignoring us? This is what I've learned. America's ignoring us because he's 58% available. I have begged America. I've gotten on my proverbial hands and knees and said, please, pick up Tyjae Spears. Why won't you listen to me? Why don't you love me? Why indeed?
We've been
Why
doing that
indeed?
so
What's
long.
not to love?
You see the seasonal wardrobe change. Like we were almost in like summer-esque clothing, and then now we're bundled up. That's how long.
Wearing an Atlanta Flames
Yes,
sweater
yes.
at some
Right.
point for NHL season.
And I wore that Buffalo Bills sweatshirt to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of Jay and I's one night in Buffalo.
Of course, a historic
that
night.
magical night.
Historic.
Tyjae Spears, available in 51% of leagues. So that number is starting to trickle downward. You might have time. If you don't, well, you didn't listen.
Well,
All right.
we'll find out, by the way. Trade deadline's coming up at 4 o'clock. It doesn't look like that Derrick Henry's going to be moved, but you never know. You never know. And again, he's still getting a decent amount of work. Even if Derrick Henry's still on that offense, the fact is that Tyjae Spears is getting a decent amount of work. Henry does have some injury concerns, and that offense suddenly looks rejuvenated under Will Levis.
Hell yeah.
So we will see. They have the Thursday night game against the Steelers this week.
All right, our next one here, Rams running backs, Darrell Henderson, 55% available, and Royce Freeman, who's looked good, 78% available. They have Green Bay and then the bye week. Week 8 against Dallas, when you look at this crew as well, 12 rushes, 31 yards, 3 catches for 54 yards for Henderson. I think something to keep an eye on, though, with this, guys, is that Matthew Stafford is day-to-day with a sprain in his right thumb, which would kind of make you a little afraid of the Rams' run game in terms of the lack of threat under center.
A little bit, although you could argue that they lean
right.
on and that the lack of efficiency is made up for with increased volume because they're going to want to run the ball. And by the way, that's exactly what they've been doing. These guys have touched the ball a lot in the last 2 games. 34 touches over the last 2 for Darrell Henderson. Freeman has 21 over the last 2. They've each scored a touchdown in these 2 weeks. Freeman got it last week. Henderson got it 2 weeks ago as well. And we're going to, at the end of this segment, we'll show you where I rank all these running backs. But just while we're here, I prefer still Henderson to Freeman. I get it. Freeman played a few more snaps than Henderson, 30-28 last week, and he got the touchdown. But I will say that Darrell Henderson also got a goal-to-go carry. He just was down at the 2. He got it from like the 5, and then they brought in Freeman. I don't know how indicative that is of something going forward. And by the way, Darrell Henderson involved in the passing game. He had 3 receptions for 54 yards, so that's why I prefer Henderson to Freeman. Is just the usage is about the same. I don't know that we have enough information to say this one is definitely the goal line back versus the other one. And so Henderson's passing game usage is what puts him over Freeman for me. It's worth noting they play the Packers this week, then they're on a bye, then they're home to Seattle, which is a tough run defense, and Kyren Williams could be back around that time as well. So this is a little bit of a short-term rental, but aren't we all?
Yep. And I think that going up against the Packers, that game is the Packers are field goal favorite, so expecting that to be close enough that there can be a run game script there. And also good news on Stafford that, I was expecting yesterday maybe it'd be, a tear and he's going on IR and maybe that could still be in play, but it seems like there is some optimism that it won't be super long term, but we'll monitor that.
Our next one, Jay, Bills running back, newly signed to the practice squad, Leonard Fournette. The Bills have the Bengals. It's no guarantee that Fournette will be called up and be active this week, but he is out there on the waiver wire pretty much across majority of leagues.
Yeah, huge range of outcomes possible
Correct.
with Leonard Fournette. There is a chance that he's just not a thing at all, and he just won't have any relevance for fantasy for the Bills, and he's just a depth option. There's also the chance that he's the number 1 running back on what could be the best offense in football the rest of the season. So those are your range of outcomes. I do think my best guess would be that he gets passing game work and he gets the goal line work that was going to Latavius Murray. I think he's been sitting on his couch for so long that I think that he would only sign for an opportunity that he knew that he was going to play. So I lean more towards the positive spectrum on Lenny, but certainly a huge range of outcomes.
It really depends on what your team needs. If you need a guy for this week, you're like, listen, I have McCaffrey and Etienne on a bye, which, by the way, if you do, good for you. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're sitting there like, hey, due to injuries and bye weeks, I need somebody this week, Fournette's not your guy. But if you're feeling pretty good about where you're at, I think Fournette, he comes in high for me because the range of outcomes can potentially be so high. Again, this is somebody who's been out there on the street for quite some time. And so why is that? Is that because teams haven't wanted to sign him? I mean, the Patriots kicked the tires on him. He's had a couple of visits. So is he out of shape, or is it, to your point, Jay, that he's just like, you know what? I want to wait at this stage of my career. I won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. I'd like another shot at another title. Let me just wait till the right situation, team, role, et cetera, et cetera. And so here comes the Bills that have Damian Harris hurt and Latavius Murray. I tweeted this out. Ian Hartitz put this out. He does the Sheesh report every week, which is about missed opportunities. And Latavius Murray has had 4 goal-to-go carries where he has not scored, not only on not those carries, but also on that drive. So it's not like he got one, went down, and then he was able to convert it again. So I wonder if Fournette, who's a better pass catcher than Latavius Murray, to your point, Jay, I agree with your analysis, which is that he could get the Latavius Murray role plus some of the passing down work that they have James Cook in. So for whatever reason, they haven't fully committed to Cook, and maybe Fournette, who does have this championship pedigree, who is very good in pass pro, who is can play all 3 downs. To your point, there's a chance, and maybe it's a 10% chance, but there is a chance at some point this season he's the lead running back on one of, if not the best offense in football. And so for me, that upside is worth grabbing and stashing right now. Just understand that, he also might be never called up, and you might be dropping him in 3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, with the difficulty of the Bills' schedule that I mentioned, I think he's just going to be in the guy in a lot of 2-minute drills where this offense is just constantly trying to score. Certainly think that he could provide a lot of value.
And especially, Jay, back to your point that if they're in shootouts, I mean, he could be the one benefiting from a lot of that in goal line situations. Our next one here, Cardinals running back Emari Demercado against the tough Browns defense. He's available in 64% of leagues against Baltimore. Demercado got 20 carries for 78 yards. He also caught 1 pass for 1 yard. Kind of a weird thing to sprinkle in here, guys, is that Clayton Tune is expected to start for the Cardinals this week.
What do you think he's going to be like, first up, against the Browns defense?
I think very safe. A lot of quick game. Tune's a guy that threw the ball a ton in college, so this isn't going to be something that he's not used to. But you can't have him taking deep drops against this Browns pass rush. You're setting him up for disaster. But the good news is that probably benefits some guys on the Cardinals offense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he was part of a Clayton Tune, right? He played at Houston with Tank Dell. He was Tank Dell's guy.
Tank had 180 targets.
1,000%. And honestly, when I was at the NFLPA rookie premiere, I spoke to both Clayton Tune and Tank Dell about each other, and both could not have been more effusive about the connection they had and just what kind of a competitor. Tank Dell talking to me about what kind of a competitor Clayton Tune is. And so we'll see. They were going to try to ramp up Kyler Murray, but the reports are, and it was weird because after the game, Jonathan Gannon said, hey, no, we're sticking with Josh Dobbs. And then a little bit later, it came out Monday morning. It was just actually, it's either going to be Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray. And so does Josh Dobbs get dealt?
I think you're onto something.
You know what I mean? Again, because if they probably can't find a trade partner for Kyler Murray at the moment, right? With his contract, they probably people want to see him play. The Cardinals are very much in the conversation to have a shot at Caleb Williams or Drake May, right? And so, there's a lot of,
right.
And the guys that drafted Kyler Murray aren't there. He was a Kingsbury guy, and so could they be maybe there's a purpose in starting Clayton Tune
and not rushing
Kyler Murray, and so we'll see. Opportunity here for the guy. The other thing that's important to note here is, so they play Cleveland, then they're home to Atlanta, which in theory is still a good defense. I know last week was tough, but it's still a good defense, although they lost Grady Jarrett. At Houston, that's not an easy matchup. And then they're home to the Rams. So it's not a great schedule coming up here. Really interesting to see what happens with Clayton Tune. We'll talk more about what you're going to do with the Marquise Browns and the Trey McBrides of the world as we get later into the week. But yeah, that's a really interesting one, because Josh Dobbs has value, and why wouldn't you trade him for a 3 or something like that?
He'd be the best quarterback on the Vikings or the Jets
100%.
right now.
And it's also just right by the player too, right?
Yes.
Josh Dobbs is not a part of the Cardinals' long-term future. He's not. They drafted Clayton Tune to be a long-term backup for them, and whether Kyler or a top 3 pick is their future, that means Josh Dobbs is irrelevant to this franchise.
And he's played well.
He
played great, but he has shown that he should be if not a starting quarterback, he should be a top backup in this
100%.
league. I don't know that he's a starting quarterback necessarily in this league, but you know what I mean? there are people much worse with him with jobs in the NFL.
Yep.
So
I would love to see him on the Vikings offense with Justin Jefferson back
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks and Jordan Addison. I think he could definitely lead them to the playoffs.
I can't be fully objective. He is literally one of my favorite players in the NFL. Like I said, I go to the NFLPA rookie premiere every single year. I've done it for like 7 years. I interview 40 to 45 kids every single year. And over 7 years, like there's 5 or 6 guys that I remember that interview with. I just loved that guy, and Josh Dobbs is one of those guys who I just absolutely love. So I'm rooting for Josh Dobbs here. As for Emari Demercado, Luigi, he like Emari. Emari, he's my guy. Here's the issue. Here's the issue. Here's the issue. Right there, he play at Cleveland this week. Okay. And then the week after that, the James O'Connor kind of coming back. I'm a little nervous about my Emari. Luigi, you're nervous about Emari. Wouldn't go crazy for Emari.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
The weird thing here, just normal voice for a second. The weird thing about Emari Demercado is, so he's been getting the touches, right? 39 over the past 2 weeks, getting a ton of work. But then also, Keontae Ingram ran twice as many routes. We thought Demercado was the third down back. Well, last week, he saw 4 of the 6 snaps inside, and this is Keontae Ingram, 4 of the 6 snaps inside the 10-yard line. He ran twice as many routes. Like they were using Demercado as like the every down back, and then Keontae Ingram like as the third. And now with Clayton Tune, and like who knows? Sure, if you're truly desperate, I mean, and Cleveland hasn't been Cleveland recently. The last 2 weeks, the defense hasn't looked as dominant as we've seen, but I don't know.
I mean, just any running back who gets 20 carries in a game generally just has to be rostered
value,
until they lose that job. And also the fact that he was able to get 20 carries in a game that they were effectively losing the entire time, I think that bodes well as well. But yeah, not super inspiring, and it'll be James Conner's role when he's back.
Our next running back, Devin Singletary from the Texans, who, Jay, he officially finds himself in a split backfield with Dameon Pierce. It's been trending this way. They are officially splitting touches.
It has been trending that way. And look, I don't think you're super excited about either of these guys. I think the main upshot of Singletary getting more work is that it's just bad news for Dameon Pierce as opposed to good news for anyone who has Devin Singletary, because I just think that is going to be a divide. And I mean, I'm not very excited about starting Singletary in my flex, Matthew.
Nor should you be. We actually saw Mike Boone get some work, right? I mean, so it's like now it's a 3-headed committee on an offense that hasn't been, even when they've been rolling, even when the Texans' offenses look good, they haven't been able to run the ball effectively. And we thought at the beginning of the year, well, it's because their offensive line was banged up. Maybe it's just not a good run game. And maybe just, C.J. Stroud is good enough and their wide receivers are winning one-on-one matchups. And so, but I mean, look, he had, he just didn't do a ton here. He saw they had 7 snaps inside the 10-yard line. Singletary got only 2 of them. It's not a great matchup with the Buccaneers this week. They allow the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. And, so we're mentioning him because he's out there, but more to say like, hey, I'm not super excited about this. By the way, I'm so effing pissed at this run game in general because Dameon Pierce, I'm in a guillotine league. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm a cut. I'm a dead. Luigi is a dead. Not in our guillotine league, but the one that I care about, the guillotine league that I care about,
Thanks,
it's with a bunch of celebrities and VIPs and people that are investors in fantasylife.com. And so I'm still alive in our league, and I'm still alive in a league. I'm in a guillotine league with a bunch of my old ESPN buddies. I'm killing them. That's fine. That's easy. But the league that I care about.
With the big people.
With the big people, right. You guys, the little people. The one with the big people, I just got cut last night. And all I needed was Dameon Pierce he scores a touchdown, and then it gets called back. And then they have another 1-yard carry, and they give it to C.J. Stroud. So Andrew Beck, their fullback, gets the second carry when Pierce gets in, and then they overturn it. And then they come in close, and then they give it to C.J. Stroud as opposed to Dameon Pierce. If he gets one of those touchdowns, I survive. If Josh Jacobs doesn't score last night, because the guy it was between me and one other guy, and the touchdown that Josh Jacobs put him over the top. If he doesn't get that touchdown, I survive. But of course, the Lions' vaunted run defense can't stop stupid Josh Jacobs from getting in the end zone. So I'm a bitter Luigi. I'm a sad. I ate to my feelings.
Our last running back, Zach Charbonnet, he's got Baltimore this week. 58% available, and the Charbonnet coming off a week where he outsnapped Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker was banged up coming into this game. So Charbonnet, definitely a guy that you can pick up, and if Walker remains banged up, he's going to be involved.
He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry so far this season. Pete Carroll talked him up quite a bit on the in a press conference recently. Now again, Pete Carroll talks everyone up, but the fact is this is a really talented kid that came out of college that we really liked, and that had he landed in a different situation, we'd have been over more. And so Pete Carroll's not scared to say, like, hey, you're the guy now. And so again, his role this week would be uncertain at Baltimore, and you don't love the matchup. But if you're in the Leonard Fournette, hey, I'm just grabbing someone to stash because I think he's got massive upside compared to a lot of these. Like, if I'm grabbing and stashing, I much prefer him to the Singletaries, Demercados, even the Rams guys, right? Because I think Kyron Williams comes back. Let's look right now at the Luigi's rankings. Yeah, let's look at how I put them up in the order here.
The Week 9 top running back waiver targets: Roshan Johnson, Tyjae Spears, Darrell Henderson, Leonard Fournette, Emari Demercado, Royce Freeman, Motor Singletary, and finally Zach Charbonnet if you need a stash. With that,
Zach Charbonnet is, if you need somebody this week,
Okay.
Zach Charbonnet's there at 8. But if you needed someone to stash, I'd put him right up there with Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
I'd actually put him ahead, right there, tied with Fournette, because they both have massive upside. I might even put him ahead of Fournette, actually, because he's currently on the roster, and we know he can play.
And we've seen Kenneth Walker get banged up through
1,000%.
season already.
1,000%.
As we move over to the quarterback list here, Sam Howell, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, Will Levis. I think we have to talk about Will Levis, so we'll get there in a second. Jay, let's start with Sam Howell, who was impressive against the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Sam Howell needs to be rostered. This team is going to continue to need to throw the ball, particularly because they're gutting their already suspect defense. And if Sam Howell can only get sacked once against the Eagles, that's a great sign going forward. To your point, he was just quicker processing everything, and we're still waiting for the value to really come with his legs.
Since week 4, he's the 4th best quarterback in fantasy football. Future Hall of Famer Sam Howell. I don't know how many times I got to say it.
Barry, how about Derek Carr coming off a big week, and now he's got the Bears?
He's had over 300 passing yards in 3 straight games. And to your point about the Bears, they give up the 3rd most passing yards, 5th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. I don't believe Chris Olave is going to be this bad. Like, he had just a brutal drop where it just hit him in the helmet. Like, he's going to get right as well. So Derek Carr, who they're letting him throw. And if he throws a dump off to Alvin Kamara and Alvin Kamara runs 15 yards, that counts as passing yards. So, yeah, Carr comes in at number 2 on the waiver wire.
Jay, Baker Mayfield, quite simply with him, he's just dropping back a ton in this Bucs offense right now.
Yeah, he's like a slightly wealthier man's Gardner Minshew, where he'll get you the stats. It's not pretty, it's not that effective, but he's good for 250 yards and a touchdown.
Well, speaking of Gardner Minshew, Barry, he's available in 84% of leagues, and as Jay said, it feels like he's good for at least 2 touchdowns every week right now.
He's averaging over 40 pass attempts in his 4 starts this season. Again, they are just throwing. The Colts are, like we talked about with the Cowboys, they can't have a normal game. The Colts just can't have a normal game, but it feels like they're letting him just, Minshew mania, and it's crazy, and he's got total job security. Like, it's not pretty. He's had 9 turnovers the last 3 games, but he's also had over 300 yards in 2 of the last 3. As the run game gets going, that's opening up. Josh Downs has become a thing. Obviously, Michael Pittman's a star, so you're not super scared about Carolina this week. Panthers played pretty good defense last week, but let's see them do it against the Colts, and then they have a home game against New England. That's the Germany game. So decent schedule for Minshew prior to the bye.
Finally, Jay, Will Levis coming off a week where he was just throwing bombs. 3 of his 4 touchdowns come on passes of 15-plus air yards. He's out there in pretty much every redraft league right now. Are you buying in that Levis can stay hot?
No, I'm skeptical on Levis. They had a 29.4% success rate passing through the air, so hugely dependent on those big plays, breakdowns in the secondary. I think he's worth picking up if he's there to put on your bench. Certainly super flex leagues, you should pick him up, but I think Levis will come back down to earth.
Maybe, but I'll also say this, that, again, if you have starting quarterbacks and you're just sort of like, again, just picking up a guy for upside, after Sam Howell, I'd prefer him to any of the guys we just mentioned because maybe he struggles.
He could be good.
He could be great. Like,
right.
we have no idea. This is a guy that was so much of the narrative around the draft was because he, quote, dropped. But again, like, this is a guy with a cannon for an arm, who has good receivers on his team, and they have a strong enough run game that they can't just, play back. They're going to have. So, anyway, there's a chance that Levis is good. If he balls out against Pittsburgh on Thursday night, which he could, anyway, I think he's worth a shot if you're looking for upside down the road.
Let's take a look at tight end waiver targets, starting with Cardinals' Trey McBride against the Browns, Commanders' tight end Logan Thomas against the Patriots, Saints, of course, Taysom Hill's out there against the Bears.
Trey McBride is somebody that we've talked about a week ago that we said when the Zach Ertz injury happened, we said go get him. He was on this show last week. 20% of you listened to you, of us, 80% didn't. He's still 80% available. This is not a fluke. The Cardinals rank second in tight end target share this year. That offense targets the tight end, and especially with a rookie under center, if it's Clayton Tune, you'd expect him to look to Trey McBride quite a bit with Zach Ertz out. 14 targets in week 8, and 88% route participation. He's out there a ton, and so Trey McBride, I think this is somebody that I would be aggressive on the waiver wire to go grab.
I'd also be aggressive with Taysom Hill. I think this is just going to be a thing. He continues to be a part of the offense. The touchdowns are a little bit fluky with the volume they're coming at, but he's going to be a part of the offense, and they have a super easy schedule going forward.
I appreciate you also leaving Logan Thomas for me, who very quietly is a top 8 tight end in terms of fantasy points per game this season. He's at least 40 receiving yards and 5 of 7. They play the Patriots. They don't scare you.
If you need a defense, the Falcons got Minnesota. We'll see if Jaron Hall starts that game. The Patriots have the Commanders, the Giants offense, the Giants defense, which will have that Raiders. We'll get into the Raiders a little bit. 94% available is that Giants defense that has a really nice 3-week stretch. And of course, if you're picking up anybody that we just went through on today's show, you need to make a drop. Here's droppable players rostered in over 50% of leagues. Matthew Stafford dealing with the thumb sprain. Jordan Love's been bad. Miles Sanders, Romeo Doubs, Elijah Moore, and Tyler Higbee. So with that, we will take our first break, and we hope you weren't holding a lead versus Jahmyr Gibbs going into Monday Night Football, because boy, would it be scary for you. With that, we'll be back with the Monday Night Football breakdown.
Look at that shot of Todd Zeal as we go to break.
Poor Todd. Poor me. San Francisco, Denver.
Oh, God. Took me a second.
No reaction.
No reaction. I was busy doing prep.
That's
Penn State Blake.
Penn State Blake going for his revenge.
Penn State Blake waited behind this video game machine for like a half hour for me to come into the studio. It took me a while to get into the Luigi outfit. And then I'm sitting here doing my prep, as you see, before the show. A lot of people think I just sit down 30 seconds before the show and make it all up. But the truth is, I'm here at least in a minute and a half to 2 minutes before the show.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was just doing a little prep. And, yeah, tried to scare me. But you know what?
Ice water in the veins.
Ice water in the veins. Exactly.
Luigi TB12.
Exactly. I'm George Gervin.
Unfazed.
I'm the Iceman, man. I'm like Tom Brady. It's a me. It's a Luigi. You can't scare me. I face the Donkey Kong and the Dragons, and Penn State Blake is a nothing to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who was scared. Everybody that had to face Jahmyr Gibbs on Monday Night Football. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, that's a good segment.
Drinks free right
How
there.
did Todd Zeal win that Emmy?
Nice.
It's outrageous.
It's tough. I got robbed. What do you want to say? Robbed. It's tough. But
right,
I'm back here and ready to roll. Jahmyr Gibbs, monster game. David Montgomery down. This is from James Coe, who always draws up some great
I love James.
stuff. Your lead going into Monday Night Football, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Giant sea monster.
Giant
Oh, my
sea-
God. That is
Unbelievable game.
Yeah, you ruined a lot of weeks for people. Or made them.
I mean, but here's what's exciting, right? So Dan Montgomery's been out, and he's now had over 100 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games. This is the 5th most touches by a player in a game this season. Again, that was one of the concerns from Dan Campbell and the coaching staff was, could Jahmyr Gibbs handle a massive workload? Obviously, test passed. You know what I mean? Like he was everything that everyone who drafted him this year hoped he would be and so much more. Campbell after the game, quote, I think the more he gains his own confidence and knows his abilities in this league, he's just going to continue to grow. And I think this was kind of the tip of the iceberg, which is exciting. Now, they're on a bye this week. Dave Montgomery's going to come back and take a piece of this as well. So this is likely Jahmyr Gibbs' best game of the season as long as Dave Montgomery's healthy the rest of the year. But, you know, he went from a guy that you're like, I don't know if I can start him with Dave Montgomery out to now like, I think it's going to be 1A, 1B with him and Montgomery back just because you don't put that genie back in the bottle.
Yep, no, 100% agree. I think he's going to be must start every single week. Easy matchup against the Raiders, but they have a really easy schedule the rest of the way anyway. So I think I'd rather have Gibbs than Montgomery the rest of the way.
Well, you could have been celebrating the night for Jahmyr Gibbs. You might have been banging your head against the desk as Davante Adams has 2.1 points, comes in as wide receiver 100 on the weekend. Adams said, I wish I had words to say something that's not going to get blown up in the media or taken out of context.
He should have had 160 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He was wide open on 2 big. I mean, that's what's a killer. Like, like air yards leader. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, wide open and just doesn't come anywhere close. I mean, as you see it here on your screen, like, there's Davante Adams, like, oh, underthrown. He should have had a touchdown right there. There's another one on that, and I'm guessing this is the next play that we'll see, where he's wide open he's streaking down the sideline. Not even close. And here's another one. Streaking down the sideline, he's wide open. He's got his guy beat. Like, no one's within like 10 feet of him, and just doesn't come. He comes over to the sideline. He's very, very angry. I can't believe I left Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers to come to this mess. That's what I think he was saying. I don't know what you have to hope they make a change at quarterback or Davante Adams gets traded between now and 4 o'clock, because otherwise, what are you going to do? But you got to keep rolling them out there, because it won't stay the same. It can't. It sucks.
Don't forget, on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Download the app and use the promo code BERRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Back to the futures. It's that time of the week, Jay. I know you got a long shot in one of those suit coat pockets. What do you got for us?
I do, Connor. It's in the Offensive Rookie of the Year market. I'm taking Bryce Young at 55-1. He's quietly turned the corner lately. CJ Stroud's starting to show some chinks in the armor, so I think that Bryce Young, even though he is coming from pretty far back, I think that he could catch him.
Listen, the crown is yours. The Luigi is yours. I'm here for America. All right. How about Kevin O'Connell for Coach of the Year? It's 60-1. 60-1. Look, they're 4-4. Jaron Hall might be decent. Like, we have no idea. Like, Will Levis, Brock Purdy, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, all of them rookie quarterbacks with questions when they came in the league. All of them performed. So, look, 6 of their 9 games: Atlanta, New Orleans, Denver, Chicago, Vegas, Green Bay. Those are all winnable games that they could do. So, if he gets in the playoffs, think about this, right? Again, like, that 7th seed is wide open. You've got the South team. You've got, whatever. Anyway, we're out of time. Give me Kevin O'Connell for 60-1. If they make the playoffs, I think he has a real shot at winning Coach of the Year, and I think they've got a legit shot to still make the playoffs.
Agreed.
These guys like the long shots. I'll take a layup here. Saints to make the playoffs is -150. This division stinks. I'm not afraid of their schedule. I'm not afraid of the Falcons. I think Derek Carr is back on track. I like the Saints to make the playoffs.
It's a closing time, but you can't stay here, but you got to go home. Go get a trick or treat for Todd Zeal and Rich Kotite. I'm a Luigi. Hasta la vista. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.